Hello, and welcome to the premiere episode of Critical Conversations. I'm your host, Ricky Watson, and I am excited that you've chosen to spend this time with us today. And in case you don't already know, I promise you, you're in the right place. This is where we dive deep into the issues that matter most in our lives, in our communities, and in our spirits. You know, life is full of challenges and complexities, and whether it's the pressures we face at work, the struggles in our personal lives, or the overwhelming state of the world around us, sometimes it feels like we're being pulled in a million different directions. But here, in this space, we take a step back, we take a breath, and we get real about what it means to live with purpose, with passion, and with faith. Today, we have an extraordinary show lined up for you. We're kicking off with a conversation that's not just critical, it's essential. We're talking about the power of unity, justice, and moral leadership in our communities. And to help us navigate this powerful discussion, we are honored to have a remarkable guest with us. Our guest today is Sheilah Garland-Olaniran, a member of the Illinois Coordinating Committee for the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. Sheilah, welcome to Critical Conversations.
Thank you so much, Ricky.
My
nice
pleasure.
to be here.
It's so great to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, Sheilah, I want to jump right in. So for some of our viewers that may not know who you are or the campaign you're part of, tell us a little bit about yourself and the campaign.
Well, I got involved with the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival, during its relaunch in 2018. So as most folks probably know, in 1968, the original Poor People's Campaign was launched. And at that time, that was after the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He had called for the end to the Vietnam War, but he had also started calling out the economic injustices that existed in the country at the time. And so I don't know, for folks that are students of Dr. Martin Luther King and the history of the campaign to essentially overthrow apartheid or overthrow Jim Crow. This was a very critical point. Many people consider it the second Reconstruction of this country, where you had a redistribution of resources to address issues of the long-standing inequalities in this country with respect to its African-American population. And so as folks have probably experienced another period of real deep economic decline. And so when the campaign relaunched, we wanted to really take a deep dive and look at what was happening. Why were people so poor? Why was there so much political instability? And what was it that was sort of replacing sort of the hopefulness that people had about being able to be in an economy that we called a democracy? What was actually shifting? And so when the campaign relaunched, the two anchor organizations at the national level are Repairers of the Breach, which is headed by Bishop William J. Barber, and Reverend Liz Theo Harris of the Kairos Center. Okay. And the unity of these two, or the working together of these two organizations, really set an extraordinarily strong foundation for us to, because Martin Luther King used to say, you know, it's okay to be loud, but don't be wrong.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. So you have to do your research. You have to know what you're talking about, because we can't, be out here saying this and this and this, and you don't have the research to back it up. So the Kairos Center, as well as Repairers of the Breach, along with many other, universities, institutions, professors, but more than that, faith leaders, people of conscience, advocates, but more importantly, the 140 million poor people who have been taught a narrative of division that keeps us looking at one another as the enemy. So like Martin Luther King said, don't look at that white person, or the Negro, as he used in that time, standing next to you. They're not the cause of the injustices that you experience. We have to look at the broader systems that's really creating the level of poverty that they were seeing back then. And we're saying essentially the same thing.
Absolutely.
I always talk about coming from Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan, when I was growing up, was a thriving metropolis. There was a population of about 200,000. Oh, wow. 100,000 of those folks were engaged in some form of auto production.
Oh, wow.
When you go back to Flint, there are less than 10,000 people doing auto production. My father was an auto worker. But yet, not one single automobile less is being produced in this country. Where do all those folks go? And what happens to the economic base of this country? More importantly, how do those extraordinary economic shifts based on a new kind of, if you will, technology for production impact us? Because it does. Where did those 100,000 people go?
Absolutely.
In Michigan, in Flint, many of those people ended up homeless and in the streets. So when you walk past a homeless person, they have a history. And if you, even around Chicago and the Midwest, across the country, every single industry has been impacted by this extraordinary shift in technology. And so look at the banking industry. Most of the time, you don't interact with a teller. You're interacting with a machine. You're on your phone. Go to your grocery store. The whole financial sector where you had your taxes and all these things, the accounting houses, they're all gone. The packing houses, where, just every single aspect of our life is being extraordinarily impacted. So when the campaign relaunched, at the time of the launching of the original Poor People's Campaign, there were about 40 million people who were considered poor and low income.
Wow.
So today, and we've done a tremendous amount of research, there are over 140 million people. That's almost half. I'm going to say that again, almost half. 43% of the population of this country are poor.
My
And one emergency away from complete, disaster, homelessness, whatever.
So what is one thing that you think could really motivate people to kind of step outside of themselves and really get involved with this campaign? Because people have a tendency to only focus on their life, their survival, but what's something to connect with them to actually make them say, hey, I need to be a part of this?
So, it's really interesting because everybody asks that question. But I think the real question to ask is, what is it that the campaign is talking about that really addresses what people are dealing with in their lives? So we find that people come toward the campaign because they're looking for something, or they're looking to really try to figure out how can I address what's really happening to me long term. We don't tell people if this is not the place that you need to be, don't be here. There's plenty of stuff out there for people to do. But I think it's really important because more and more people are not getting their needs met. So my experience tells me that people who need change are going to fight for change. So if I'm facing homelessness, if I'm unhoused, if I can't get access to the health care I need, and I can't get it individually, that means I'm going to start looking for places where there's some sort of fight being waged. And everybody, at this point, almost nobody is untouched by the political machinations that are going on in this country. No one is untouched. So continuing to build and to unify. When we first started, we only had about, 20 people in the campaign.
Oh, wow.
We have tens of thousands of people across not just Illinois, but across the country that are engaging with the campaign. So it's a slow growth. It's a slow process. We're really unifying. It is indeed a movement. So what I'm saying is people who need change are going to find the places where they need to fight. If it's not the campaign, it could be in your church. We do have a strong, strong presence of faith community and faith people in the campaign because you have to have that prophetic word. If you research the Bible, there are over 2,000 references to helping the poor, recognizing the poor and the widow, the orphan. Our Christian tradition tells us that we have to address this issue and that the issue is not that poverty is always with us or that we will always have the poor with us. I challenge people to go read Liz Theo Harris's book, Are the Poor Going to Be With Us Forever? That's not true. We have the wherewithal. Think about it. If you have the technology to produce the millions of cars that get produced with very little human production, there's abundance. It's where is that abundance going and how is it being distributed?
I love that. Now we're basically out of time already. This is phenomenal. And I do want you to give people opportunity to tell them where to go to connect with the campaign. However, I don't want people to miss the lessons that are involved in this. I am a firm believer everything in life is trying to teach us something. And one of the pivotal points, I believe, in what you're saying is unity is such a solution for us right now. No matter what the change is, or even when it comes to voting your values, if we want to see real change and real progress, we've got to learn to get together and unify and come together and become one voice. And I feel like that's what systems, people, have always been afraid of, that one voice, collective voice coming together. So how can people reach out, connect to this campaign, get involved with it?
Yeah, and I do want to say I think it is one voice, but I think it's about seeing the humanity.
Love
because
that.
We've been taught to see each other as not human. But if people want to get involved, there's the Illinois Poor People's Campaign, National Call for a Moral Revival. It's all .org, so poorpeoplescampaign.org. You can research us. We're actually launching this is the third time that we've done a huge voter outreach among poor and low-income workers, voters around the country. And this time we're reaching out to 15 million poor and low-income voters to have an impact on those states that really matter.
That is amazing. I just want to thank you again, Sheilah,
Sure.
for taking the time to spend with us tonight and have this conversation. And on the other side of this break is the Coaching Corner. So stay with us.
I'm Francia Garcia Hernandez. On the premiere episode of Presente, the Venezuelan sisters behind Klein's Bakery in Lakeview share their journey of building an anchor business. Join us on Thursday, September 12th at 7 p.m. via Channel 19, streaming on cantv.org and the CanTV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
Welcome back to Critical Conversations. If you're just joining us, no worries. I am so glad you're here because this is the part of the show where we dive deep into the heart of what really matters, finding guidance and comfort and direction through the wisdom of the Bible. Now, normally this is where I'll be sitting down with someone else offering biblical coaching to help them navigate through their challenges. But today, I want to do something a little different. Before we start this journey together, I think it's important that you know why this segment means so much to me. And the best way to do that is to share a piece of my own story. A moment in my life where coaching that aligned with the scriptures didn't just change my perspective, it really changed my life. So I guess I'll start my story all the way back in elementary school. You know, those are your formative years. You learn so much about yourself. You're learning what it is to have friends, what it is to behave right, to be socially acceptable, all that good stuff. But my life was a little bit different, and I had some things that kind of complicated that. As a child, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. I had a horrible stuttering problem. So it made me stand out in school. I wanted friends. I always wanted to be around people. People did have a tendency of wanting to be around me, but what started to affect me or started to be challenging is I was definitely bullied in elementary school. I know, can't tell now, but I really was bullied in elementary school. And for me, it made me start a quest of trying to figure out, what do I need to change about me to make myself acceptable, to make myself fit in, on top of having to deal with being in and out of the hospital, having to go to speech therapy classes while everybody else was going to recess. And it just made life really difficult for me. But I began to develop behaviors and habits that, quite honestly, I didn't even know was a thing until later on in life when I got in therapy and started being coached through a lot of these things. But I was in school and I had this one friend, and in elementary school, you know, everybody had a girlfriend. Now, what we knew about having girlfriends, who knows? I mean, going out, I don't know where we were going, but we were going out, right? And so I had this girl that I really liked, really wanted her to be my, school girlfriend. And I told this guy that was my friend. And next thing I knew, I came to school and he was talking to the girl, flirting with the girl. He would come up behind me at certain parts of class and be like, look at her looking at me. I think she likes me. Now, in my brain, I really thought, this feels weird. Like, this guy is my friend. He's talking to me about a girl that I've already had a conversation with him about that I liked. But as a kid, I thought everything is getting their first definitions at this point. Now looking back at it, I'm like, that's not a friend. It's not how friendships work. It's not good. But in my mind, I started developing a concept and a definition for a friend that just wasn't the case. And my elementary school time was horrible. I was, again, in and out of the hospital, in therapy classes for speech, and then trying to build this friendship dynamic with a guy that truly wasn't my friend. But for me, I did not know that from that point in elementary school, all the way through grade school, all the way through college, until I was sitting on a couch with my therapist talking about relationships and friendships and how I cope with things and how I was dealing with having a relationship with my mom and having a relationship with my dad and what that looked like, that I realized that it was in elementary school, I developed a concept and a thought and a belief about myself that wasn't true. I started believing that in order to be in relationship with somebody or to have a friendship with them, my needs didn't come first. My needs weren't even really a priority. It was about how I could serve them or how I could be there for them and how I could support them. And everything about my life became about other people. And I didn't even realize that until I was in a session with my therapist and we were talking through this, and he started asking me questions about things I liked or things I enjoyed doing or favorite foods and different things. And the strangest thing was I really couldn't answer those questions. I could tell you what I liked doing with my friends because they enjoyed it. I could tell you about relationships I had been in and things that I enjoyed doing with them, but it was really because they enjoyed it. But it became really difficult for me to start locating what I liked. Simple questions like, what's your favorite color? Started making me take pauses and think about, wait, what is my favorite color? What do I like? And what don't I like? And if I don't like it, is it okay not to like it? Do I need to change that? And it was at that moment, my therapist started coaching me through that. It started giving me pivotal things. One of the first things that I learned in therapy was learning to be kind to Ricky. I think I'm a pretty kind person. Now, you ask some of my friends, they may have different scenarios, different things to say. I think I'm pretty kind, pretty generous, pretty nice. But when it comes to me, I never thought about extending kindness to myself. The phrase seemed weird. The concept seemed abnormal. But my therapist kept reiterating, like, you've got to learn to be kind to yourself. Be gracious with yourself. And for the most part of that whole season and era of my life, I just couldn't grapple with it until my therapist finally said something to me. He said, start treating yourself like you would treat people that you thought were your friends. And I don't know why that turned the light on for me, why it clicked for me. But when I start looking at myself as somebody that deserved to be accepted, deserved to be loved, deserved to be heard, all of a sudden I realized, oh, this is what being kind to me is. But the flip side of that was, if I had not been practicing kindness to myself, what have I been doing? How has my negative thoughts and my negative self-talk, what has it been doing to my confidence? And what opportunities have I been missing? And what doors have I been refusing to walk through? And what friendships have I missed out on because I didn't know how to first be a friend to Ricky? And it was in coaching that I learned that all of these dreams and aspirations that you may have for your life and goals you may have for your life and desires that you may have for your relationships and all of the different arenas of your life, if you do not know how to treat you, you'll never know how to treat anybody else. And not just anybody else, you'll never know how to treat anything else. You won't treat your opportunities right. You won't treat your doors right. You won't treat your promotions right. You won't treat your friends and your lovers right. Everybody gets the short end of the stick if you start with the short end of the stick. And it wasn't until I learned that, and again, I grew up in the church. I'm a good old Kojic country boy growing up in the church. And so I knew the Bible, I knew the scriptures, I knew what the Bible said about who I was and what God thought about me. But it's different when you're in church or you're in the communities of faith and you're learning what God thinks about you. But your life doesn't really change at that point. Your life doesn't really take an impact and a transformative turn at that point. It doesn't change until you shift from thinking about what God thinks about you to now you're thinking those same thoughts about you. You know, Jeremiah says that God says, I know the thoughts that I think towards you, and they're good. Beautiful scripture, right? Great scripture to be happy about. But that scripture doesn't really do anything for life until you're coached into a new mentality of thinking it's not just God has good thoughts about me. God wants me to have good thoughts about me. And I know life can throw curveballs. I know everybody's not nice. I know everybody's situation growing up and everybody's present day life is not what you want it to be. You got goals and it's not how you thought it would look. But somewhere you've got to start with a change of mind. Your life won't change until your mind does. And it took moments in my life of somebody coaching me and mentoring me and counseling me to help me realize all of these things that I want my life to change and be different about and learn new concepts and walk into my dreams and doors and opportunities for my life. It doesn't start with the phone call about the promotion. It doesn't start with the person of your dreams walking through the door. It doesn't start with everything you wrote down in your journal finally coming to pass. It really starts with, what do you think about you? Do you think you deserve what it is you're dreaming? Do you think you're worth what it is you're aiming for? Do you think that possibly the lessons you learned early in life could have been the wrong lessons by genuine good people teaching wrong lessons? It starts there, starts with a new mentality, starts with willing to reassess and rethink through your journey in life up to this point. Coaching really can change your life because somebody has to encourage you to stay in the ring, stay in the game, cross that finish line. Yeah, you got dreams. Yes, you have purpose. Yes, you have goals in your relationships and all sorts of things in your life. But I promise you, none of those things come into fruition by looking outwardly. You've got to start looking at yourself. If you met yourself in the grocery store, how would you treat yourself? If you met yourself at a restaurant or walking in a park, what would you really think about you? Because it's answers to those questions that's going to reset your mind and ultimately change your life. It changed mine, and it was all through the power of coaching. And so this is why this segment of the show is going to be very important to me, because I believe that if you can take anybody and just for a moment get them to think about something differently, see something they haven't seen before, relook at something through a different lens, not only can you help them with that present day situation, you can change their life. So we'll be right back with our final segment, Be Encouraged. I want you to stay with us.
Little Village, La Villita, a vibrant and diverse neighborhood on the southwest side of Chicago. The community is best known for its rich culture, tight-knit spirit, and delicious cuisine. I'm Hugo Balta. On the next episode of Sazón de Illinois, we'll sample the stories, culture, and cuisine of one of the most beloved restaurants that give this neighborhood its flavor.
Okay, today I want to have another critical conversation with you about the profound power of encouragement. In our fast-paced world where challenges often come at us from all directions, encouragement is not just a nice gesture, it's a life-giving force. And it has the power to literally transform a life. You know, the word encourage comes from a French root word, which literally means to put courage in the heart. Think about that for a moment. When we encourage someone, we are doing something sacred, something that is truly divine. We are placing courage inside of them, fortifying their spirit for the battles they face. And this is no small thing. To encourage is to participate in the divine work of empowering others to rise above their fears and frailties. Courage, as we all know, is not the absence of fear. It's not even the denial of frailty or frustration. True courage is the conquering power that allows us to face these realities with unwavering faith, unshakable fortitude, and an awareness of the favor that surrounds us. You know, the Bible tells us, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Courage is not a guarantee that everything will be easy or that we will be free from trials. Rather, it is the inner strength to stand firm in the face of adversity, knowing that we're not alone. God's presence and his power are right here with us. But here's something crucial we must understand. Once courage has been invested in the heart must be both guarded and yet not imprisoned. Proverbs 4:23 tells us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. See, guarding your heart means protecting the courage that has been placed there, ensuring that it's not drained by negativity or doubt or despair. We must be vigilant, surrounding ourselves with the truth of God's word, with positive influences, and with the encouragement of others who uplift us. Yet, while we guard our hearts, we must also be careful not to imprison them. A heart that is too tightly guarded or too fearful of being hurt or vulnerable, it can become closed off, cold, and isolated. And this is not what God has intended for us. A courageous heart is one that is open to love, open to giving and receiving encouragement, open to being used by God in ways that stretch us and lead us into greater purpose. You know, I'm reminded of the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Thessalonians, where he urged the believers to encourage one another and build each other up. This is really our calling too. We are to be a source of courage for one another, understanding that our words and actions have the power to lift someone from the pit of despair to the heights of hope. Imagine for a moment what the world would be like if we all took seriously the call to encourage. Families would be stronger, communities would be more united, and our own hearts, fortified by this courage, will be able to face anything life throws our way. Because you see, encouragement is not just a gift we give to others. It's a gift we give to ourselves, as it creates a ripple effect of courage that transforms the world around us. So today, I want to challenge you. Be an encourager. Speak life into the hearts of those around you. Guard the courage in your own heart, but let it flow freely, blessing others and returning to you in even greater measure. Because remember, encouragement is a divine act. And in it, we get to participate in God's plan to strengthen, uplift, and inspire his people. My prayer for you is that God will bless you with the courage to face your fears, the faith to overcome your frailties, and the favor to walk boldly in the purpose he's put on the inside of you. I want to thank y'all today for spending time with me, but our time has come to an end. And I hope you got something from our conversations tonight that enlightened you, empowered you, or simply encouraged you. I want you to enjoy your week. And remember that transformation in your life is often on the other side of critical conversations.